Donald Trump has declared economic war on John Deere, a company worth $124 billion. His latest move has sparked controversy across the country, raising big questions about the future of farming, the cost of equipment, and the risk of a trade war that could affect everyone. Speaking at a rally in Pennsylvania, Trump warned John Deere that if they move production of their skid steers and compact loaders to Mexico, he will hit them with a massive 200% tariff on those imports. He argued that American jobs must stay in the U.S., saying this fight is necessary to protect workers. His words fired up his supporters but also put John Deere under heavy scrutiny. For years, John Deere has been a symbol of American farming, with its famous green and yellow tractors seen across the country. Now, the company is at the center of a major debate about jobs, trade, and the future of manufacturing in the U.S. John Deere is facing one of the biggest decisions in its history. The company, known for its green and yellow tractors, is under intense pressure. On one side, rising costs in the U.S. are making it harder to keep production at home. Moving some of its manufacturing to Mexico would cut expenses since labor is much cheaper there. On the other side, such a move could anger loyal customers who see John Deere as an American icon. This is not a decision the company is taking lightly. At its core, John Deere must choose between protecting its profits and staying true to its long tradition of American manufacturing. In recent years, labor costs in the U.S. have risen sharply due to inflation and a greater demand for skilled workers. Meanwhile, competitors in other countries produce farm equipment at a fraction of the cost. That puts enormous pressure on John Deere to cut expenses. By shifting production to Mexico, the company hopes to lower costs, speed up shipping, and grow in fast-moving international markets. But to many Americans, this feels like a betrayal. The impact of this decision is huge, especially for communities built around John Deere factories. In places like Dubuque, Iowa, the John Deere plant is more than just a workplace. It's the economic heart of the town. Families have relied on these jobs for generations, and local businesses like restaurants and shops depend on the spending power of factory workers. If production moves to Mexico, many people could lose their jobs. The fear of layoffs has left many residents uncertain about their future, and local leaders are now urging state officials to convince John Deere to stay. But this issue is bigger than just one company. For decades, many American manufacturers have moved production overseas to save money. Lower wages, fewer regulations, and tax benefits in other countries have made it attractive for companies to relocate. While this helps businesses cut costs, it has left many U.S. factory towns struggling. Moves like these may boost profits in the short term, but they can damage customer trust and create long-term political and economic problems. President Donald Trump has made tariffs one of his key economic tools. He argues that taxing imports forces companies to keep jobs in the U.S. His latest move is a direct threat to John Deere. If they move production to Mexico, he will hit them with a massive 200% tariff on those products. This would make it extremely expensive for John Deere to sell its Mexican-made equipment. In the U.S., supporters of tariffs say they help protect American workers by making it harder for companies to outsource jobs. If companies are forced to pay high taxes on imports, they might decide it's better to keep production in the U.S. However, critics warn that tariffs can backfire. Higher import taxes often raise prices for consumers, hurt trade relationships, and lead to retaliation from other countries. The effects of tariffs are complicated. If the cost of imported materials like steel and parts goes up, manufacturers must spend more to produce equipment. In John Deere's case, that means higher prices for tractors, plows, and other farm machinery. Since many farmers already operate on tight budgets, this could make it harder for them to afford new equipment. If costs rise too much, farmers may be forced to use older, less efficient machines, making their work more difficult and reducing their profits. Higher tariffs could also lead to a larger trade war. When the U.S. imposes tariffs, other countries often respond with their own. In past trade disputes, countries like China and Mexico have placed tariffs on American goods, targeting industries that are politically sensitive. For U.S. farmers, this has been a major problem. Many rely on selling crops like soybeans and corn to foreign buyers, but when tariffs are imposed, demand for these products drops. If Mexico decides to retaliate against Trump's tariff threat, American agriculture could take another hit. Beyond the immediate impact on John Deere, this situation highlights a much larger issue: how to keep American manufacturing strong in a global economy. Companies want to reduce costs, but moving jobs overseas often leaves American workers behind. Some experts believe the U.S. needs to take action to help businesses stay competitive while keeping jobs at home. Possible solutions include investing in workforce training, modernizing infrastructure, and offering tax incentives to encourage companies to keep factories in the U.S. However, achieving these goals in a politically divided country is not easy. Another major issue is the labor shortage in agriculture. The industry relies heavily on immigrant workers who do difficult jobs with little protection. Tighter immigration policies have made it even harder for farms to find enough workers. As companies like John Deere look for ways to cut costs, farms must decide whether to invest in expensive automation or continue relying on human labor. The balance between technology and human workers is shifting, and many farmers are unsure of what the future holds. Right now, the future of John Deere's manufacturing operations remains uncertain. Trump's 200% tariff threat has put the spotlight on outsourcing, labor shortages, and America's ability to compete in a global market. The company's decision is part of a larger battle facing U.S. businesses, a struggle between saving money and protecting American jobs. The big question is, will political pressure and tariffs convince John Deere to keep production in the U.S.? Or will financial realities push the company to move ahead with its plans? For now, workers, farmers, and consumers must brace themselves for possible changes that could reshape the industry. What do you think? Should the U.S. impose tariffs to keep jobs in the country, or would that cause more harm than good? Another key factor in this debate is the long-term impact on American innovation and technological leadership. If companies like John Deere continue to move production overseas, the U.S. risks losing not just jobs, but also valuable expertise and industry knowledge. Manufacturing isn't just about assembling products. It's about developing new technology, training skilled workers, and maintaining a strong industrial base. When factories close or move abroad, communities lose more than paychecks. They lose generations of hands-on experience and innovation that drive future advancements. Some experts warn that if this trend continues, the U.S. could fall behind in key industries, forcing the country to rely more on foreign-made goods. Others argue that automation and new technologies could bring manufacturing jobs back in different forms, but that will require strong investments in worker training and education. The challenge is clear. America must find a way to compete in a global economy while still protecting its workers and maintaining its leadership in industrial innovation.